In this video today, I'm going to be making two pairs of pants from the exact same pattern, which is the Lane Pants pattern by Sydney Graham. Sydney Graham is a pattern maker and sewist here on YouTube who has made this incredible pattern. It's a very beginner-friendly and very basic pant pattern that's great to have in your wardrobe. She often talks about not wanting to have hard pants, which is, I guess, any pants that has like a zipper or buttons to close up. And I can really relate to that. This pattern is incredibly easy to make and a great staple to have in your wardrobe, but they're also just super comfortable because they're made up with just an elasticated waistband. I made a pair a few months ago and now I basically just want all of my pants to be made up of this pattern. So I wanted to explore how far I could take one very simple beginner-friendly pattern just through fabric choice and design tweaks, maybe some pattern hacking. So my chosen fabric for today is first this beautiful checkered linen fabric that I got while on holiday in Japan. The other is this gorgeous gray 100% wool fabric that I think is going to be perfect for the season that we're in now. One pair I want to be like a soft, a little bit tailored and very wearable for everyday pant. And the other one I want to make something a little bit more bold, playful, a little bit whimsical. Plus, I will be taking you along on the construction of these pants. Let's get started. What's so great about these pants is not only are they really easy to make, but they just have such a lovely, flattering, and comfortable fit to them. And you can make them out of so many materials and they're just super flattering. After cutting out all my pieces, I started with the pockets. The pockets are assembled by placing them wrong sides together and sewing the bottom edge. Then flipping out right sides together and stitching the bottom again, enclosing the raw edge with a French seam. The slanted edge of the pocket bag then gets matched up right sides together with the slanted side of the front leg and sewed down with a straight stitch. I then pressed out the seam towards the pocket bag and did a line of understitching on the pocket bag. After that, I placed the pocket into its rightful position and sewed down basting stitches at the top and the sides to hold it temporarily into place. Next, I could attach front and back legs together and sew them down the side seams. I was really trying to be careful when I cut the fabric for the pattern to get the lines to match up, and I think I got it pretty close. I could then attach the two pant legs together by the front and back rise. All of the raw edges, of course, get finished off by using an overlocking stitch on my machine. Then I could sew the inseam of the pants together. Again, I was really trying to be careful with lining up the horizontal lines on this pattern to make sure that we're pattern matching both the front and the back leg. Time to move on to the waistband. I folded the waistband on the fold mark and sewed down on the edge right sides together. Next, I folded the waistband in half and pressed down. This next part isn't exactly a part of the instructions in the pattern, but I prefer to finish the waistband with the raw edge on the inside enclosed with a stitch in the ditch. So I first sew the right side of the waistband to the right side of the pants. Then on the wrong side, I can fold in about 1 centimeter of the edge in and press and pin this part down. Then I transfer the pins to the right side of the waistband and sew right in the middle of that ditch where the waistband and pant legs are sewed together. And this is called a stitch in the ditch. I made sure to leave a large opening and then I got to inserting the elastic through the waistband. After I stitched together the elastic with a zigzag stitch, I closed off the opening, and it was now time for the fun part of these pants. As I wanted to add a bit more pizzazz to these pants, I wanted to add some delicate hand-sewn sequin stars to the front of the pant legs. I chose this dusty blue sequins in 3 different sizes per sequence. I cut up some different sizes of paper stars, which I mapped out arbitrarily and then used my embroidery holder to hold the fabric taut while sewing each individual piece of sequins down. I started with the borders of the stars and then worked my way in towards the middle. I spent a good few hours working like this on just one little star. I didn't want any of them to feel perfect in size or in shape, and liked the idea of them looking very hand-drawn. I did at one point start to wonder if the pants were starting to look too much like children's clothing, but I also felt like they might look like a pair of pants from Coraline Jones's closet, and I was definitely not mad about that, so I proceeded. This took me many hours to hand stitch all of these individual stars, but it was so meditative as well that I really enjoyed it. And every time I can wear these pants now, I can think of how I took the time and the effort to make this the slow way. Finally, I needed to finish the bottom of the pants, which I decided to do with a blind hem stitch. First, I overlocked the raw edges, then folded up to the desired length of the pants, which I then pressed down. I then folded the right side that was folded in to touch the right side of the fabric, leaving about 1 centimeter edge unfolded. I stitched that down with a blind hem foot, and then we're done. I'm so happy I stuck with the sequin stars. They do feel kind of childlike and whimsical, which I absolutely love. I also think I did a pretty good job with the pattern matching on the sides of the pants, which makes them look more expensive and at least not like something a child would make, I guess. These are comfortable, whimsical, and fun to wear, which is just the perfect combo. As I mentioned, I really feel a sense of pride now when I look at these sequin stars, just thinking about how I really put in the effort to sew each individual sequence down. So I'm really happy that I got to do something that took time but also brings me so much joy. So moving on to the next pair of pants. I have this lovely gray wool fabric that I'm going to be using, and I really wanted to keep the very relaxed fit of the lane pants with the elasticated waistband and the very flowy nature of the pants. I really wanted to add in some pleats and a creased part of the front of the pant leg. So I tried to do some very dodgy pattern hacking to get that pleat to be a part of the pant leg. And I made a toile. I'm gonna show it to you in a better way, but this is what it came to looking like. So I have the pleat here, you have the crease down the front here, and then I also added in the pocket bag to see how that would fit. I think the best way to do this, the proper way to do this, is probably to slash and spread the entire pant leg. The problem is I don't have any more tracing paper left, or I only had a very little section left, so I tried to only focus on the top half of the pant leg just to make sure that the waist stays the same length or circumference as the original pant leg once the dart gets, or not the dart, the pleat gets sewn in. So the most important thing was just to keep that same circumference in the top of the waist, because I think there's so much room in the rest of the pants that I don't think it's necessary to spread that part. So I'll show you what I did. Okay, so here's what I did to the pattern. I cut out 2 rectangles. So I focused on just getting the top part slashed, so it's kind of formed like a dart. It got messed up a little bit here at the end because I was folding it so many times. But basically there's 2 centimeters extra on each side, and it sort of goes into a dart shape on the outside. So it's not going to be too long. So I'm really only focusing on the waist part, right? And then basically this gets folded over. And of course, like the length right now is at the top is not completely straight, but I just straightened that out on the pattern. But then this length basically becomes the length of the original pant pattern. For the pocket bag, because the original shape is a little different, you can see here the pocket bag goes more inwards. Then when I take out, it doesn't quite, you see, it doesn't really add up, of course. So when I cut out the pocket bag, I just made sure to align it with the shape of this new extra part. Then it should be fine, actually. So moving on to the next pair, which is a very different vibe and more sophisticated and less whimsical. I start by folding the front pant leg in half, making sure it would fold where the dart hits, and then press that down. Next, I fold in the pleat and mark this sort of L shape that I'll be sewing down. Which then gives us this little pleat. I decided to bind all of my pant leg pieces and pocket pieces with bias binding. A bit more bulky option for finishing edges, but one that hopefully will save me from some of that wool itchiness. And then the rest of the construction is just as before. First, sewing the front leg and back leg together. Then sewing up the front and back rise. And then the inseam. For the waistband, I accidentally cut 2 mirrored pieces instead of cutting on the fold, but decided to just use this anyway, and then just sewed a smaller seam allowance than what the pattern calls for, so that I would end up having the same circumference. And then otherwise just attach the waistband the same way by first attaching right sides of the waistband to the pants. And then sewed a stitch in the ditch from the right side. For the bottom of the pants, I used this lovely new contraption that I got for pressing to first fold up the bottom by 1 centimeter and stitching that down. And then afterwards went back to the ironing board to fold up around 8 centimeters. And then sew that down with a top stitch. I'm so happy that I got to make these wool pants for this season. Wool is great because not only does it keep you warm, but it also helps absorb sweat from your body and helps to keep you feeling nice and cool, which actually makes it great for all seasons. These pants are pretty unremarkable, and I feel like I maybe could have made the pleat stand out a bit more and the crease a little bit more crisp, but I can already tell now that these are going to be an absolute staple in my wardrobe. If you've made it this far, then thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one.